Welcome to the Fintech Scaling Show. This podcast is sponsored by Scale Up Consulting, helping fintech startups create a scalable organization to support an ever-increasing demand. When you're ready to grow, reach out to us at richard@scaleupconsulting.co. Now, over to the show with Richard Doherty, founder and host. Today in the Scaling Show, we have Terence Naidu, founder of Envisionit Group, and Jaishree Naidoo, co-founder and CEO of Envisionit Deep AI. Hi guys, how you doing? And how's South Africa today?
Hi Richard,
Great.
It's a beautiful day here.
Yeah.
Lovely blue skies.
You wish you were here.
Yeah. We're early into winter, and I think we have the same kind of weather that you have there in London.
Well, in London, if I'm honest with you, it's raining today. So, we've had our summer. Summer's over.
Yeah.
Really great to have you guys on the show. Really looking forward to our discussion today. You've got two great companies we're going to be talking through. And let's get into it. Maybe we can kick off with an introduction about yourselves and also both of the businesses that we're going to be chatting through today.
Yeah, the Envisionit group of companies was founded funny enough, exactly 10 years ago this month, in June 2010, and initially established in the investment banking private equity space. We slowly diversified into tech, and we've got two tech businesses within the group now. Truzo, which is a digital escrow payment platform, and Envisionit Deep AI.
So we're a medical tech company, and we use artificial intelligence that detects and highlights features on chest radiographs. This streamlines the work for radiologists and improves accessibility to healthcare.
Yeah, and having been founded on a very strong ethos of integrity, innovation and investment back into the country, we have a bursary foundation that was established at the outset, where we've currently funded 30 students through their tertiary education. And this year we've got another 30 students on the program. We have an online maths and reading program for early childhood development, where we've got 1,200 kids from grade R to grade 7 learning to read in English and mathematics. Last year we launched something called the Envisionit Prize, where we awarded R1 million in prizes to kids that come up with the best water harvesting ideas, solving a challenge we face as a country, mobilizing and empowering the youth to solve those challenges, because let's face it, the older ones like us are just holding the earth for them, really. It was a really cool program to have been involved in.
Oh, cool, guys. It sounds like you also, through your business activities, are involved in the community as well. Maybe for both businesses, could you explain for our listeners the problem that you're trying to solve, and also a simple or practical example of how the tech works?
Yeah.
I can start firstly with Envisionit Deep AI. So, my journey in Envisionit Deep AI was actually a long journey. It started off with me. I'm a radiologist. I've worked in public healthcare for 20 years. And throughout this journey, I've had experiences with our healthcare services being obviously under-resourced and overused. And I knew I was making a difference and having an impact, on a small scale. But I realized, after many years, that with technology, you can use technology to augment and multiply my role. And so this is where we used the product, which is the Radify model. The Radify model was created for chest x-rays. So what it does, it transforms medical imaging diagnosis and using artificial intelligence. The COVID crisis has become a bigger threat to our healthcare resources. And so we've had to repurpose our chest x-ray model to fit the COVID. And so what it does is that it detects COVID pneumonia on x-rays, so we can actually diagnose large volumes of patients in a matter of a few seconds. So it can diagnose 2,000 patients in 1 minute. So faster than a human being. The way it works is that it can reduce and triage patients who are at high risk of COVID pneumonia, and also look at patients in terms of their high risk and if they require ICU and prioritization.
From a Truzo perspective, I love this country. I was born here. I grew up here. You know what it's like, Richard. South Africa just gets into your heart and to your soul. And having seen the past decade of institutional corruption in both the public and the private sector, and possibly watching too much Carte Blanche on a Sunday evening, I'm not sure if you still remember that program, but just seeing people being scammed of their hard-earned cash, we could either just carry on watching carte blanche and complain about it, or we could do something about it. We did a fair amount of research. We looked at how we could grow the economy. We realized that in economies with higher levels of trust, you have higher levels of GDP growth. And we've noticed, GDP growth's been negative and we're in a recession just before COVID because of the low levels of trust in our economy. But how do you create trust? And having done the research on the escrow products or the escrow concept in the US, Europe, and the UK, we thought, how can we democratize this further? So in 2017, we launched our web-based escrow platform. And that's basically a platform to create trust between strangers when buying and selling. If you're buying through online classifieds, for example, and you don't know the person you're buying from, there's quite a high risk of being scammed. Or if you're getting a pool put into your back garden, you pay a deposit up front and you just hope and pray that the guy comes back and finishes the job, right? You have no idea what the credit risk is. So we created the escrow platform, and in 2018, in December, we launched the world's first holistic escrow app. So again, further democratizing the escrow concept, where it didn't matter whether you want to do a transaction for 1,000 Rand or 100 million Rand, you could use Truzo to do that transaction. A buyer places their funds with us, the seller delivers the product or service as per the agreement, and only when the buyer is happy do we release the payment to the seller. In that way, buyers aren't getting scammed and sellers are getting paid literally 24 hours after delivery.
Okay, and just on that, it sounds like the app would work for both individuals and corporates or businesses. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So we're registered with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority in South Africa, which means that we do all the compliance checks, the KYC, anti-money laundering, sanctions lists, all that kind of stuff. And it's for individuals and corporates. We do all of our compliance checks on both.
And for our company, we have different customer segments. So it will be medical professionals that use it because it's an augmentation tool. But then it doesn't have to be a specialist. It can be just a general practitioner, and it augments them. And it gives them access to specialist resources that they wouldn't otherwise have. So it's hospitals, PAC solutions, archiving solutions, occupational health services, and telemedicine uses our products.
Let's just discuss it a bit, actually. So Ratify AI, there's a problem. We all know there's a problem right now. Are you just helping South African and African specialists or general practitioners right now? Or is this an international bit of technology that is starting to really push out into other locations?
Yeah, no, the beauty of it is that it's a product that can fit any resource, any country with resource challenges. And even in the UK, there's a lack of resources, right, in the NHS. And again, the beauty of it, the product is it can work in a cloud-based solution. So we've already integrated, we are starting to integrate with one of the hospitals, Sheffield Hospital in the UK, where they're going to run a clinical trial on our product as well. And when did we register our entity in the UK? Was it in March?
Yeah.
In March as well.
So we've been working quite closely with the UK SA Tech Hub, and we've gotten a lot of support from them. Shirley Gilby, the director of the Tech Hub specifically. And on the back of that support, we've set up both of our entities in the UK, Truzo and Envisionit have been set up in the UK now.
So as much as the product gives accessibility to places that are remote and don't have access to specialist resource, it can also be used in a very high-end digital hospital to reduce workload, do larger volumes of patients, and then streamline their workflow. So it has multiple solutions, both for under-resourced and well-resourced countries.
It's a game changer in a way, both of the solutions. So moving forward and thinking, we're obviously right now in the midst of a pandemic, but if you were to cast your eye forward or your mind forward, what do you think, what do you envision the post-COVID-19 world to look like, specifically from your business or your personal perspective?
Yeah. From a business perspective, we've seen in the US, we have unemployment numbers at around 40 million already. And the next set of numbers come out tomorrow, expecting that to go to 42 million. This is higher than we've ever seen post-Great Depression. We're going to see the same in South Africa. We're going to see the same in the UK. It's a worldwide phenomenon. What happens when people get desperate? You see an increase in fraud. You see an increase in scams. And in a post-COVID world, I think ensuring and securing your payment methodology is more crucial than ever before. For a lot of businesses right now, it's about managing cash flow and achieving your cash flow. If you're not getting money in from your customers, how are you going to be paying your staff? The economic consequences of COVID are going to be tremendous and things that we've never seen before in our lifetimes, that's for sure. But now more so than ever before, we need to protect businesses that create jobs, and we need to ensure that people aren't scammed when doing business. So from our perspective, I think we're well positioned for growth in a post-COVID world. And, from Envisionit Deep AI,
I think we can see that we've seen post-COVID how digital health has seized the moment, right? And prior to COVID, there were lots of regulatory challenges in enhancing and enabling digital health, and that has moved aside, and it's enabled technology now. You've seen multiple healthcare platforms, health management platforms being available and providing a sustainable solution. And with our product, we can plug into these health management platforms and all these digital healthcare solutions to enable doctors to see larger volumes of patients and safely. So I believe this will continue. I think the culture is changing now and adapting and allowing and enabling technology to be involved in healthcare. With us, we are able to grow our business because we are able to build multiple products. So the current product is a chest X-ray platform. We're busy working on an ultrasound platform as well as a mammography. So the different imaging modalities, mammography, CT, ultrasound, and MRI will enable us to build different products fitting different solutions. And we've always went with the products that are high volume and more accessible in Africa and in remote areas. Ultrasound can be as a point of care solution. You can use it remotely in the rural area to make a diagnosis. So we will develop products for that.
You've touched a bit on the opportunities for your businesses and most probably the wider industry across health tech and also fintech. Could you expand on that a bit more? Maybe consider the impact to those people that you just previously mentioned, maybe the townships, maybe the person on the street. How can digital actually impact their lives, and how can we get further access to digital solutions?
I mean, in terms of healthcare, we've seen in Africa how everybody has a cell phone, right? Everybody has a phone. So they do have access to a phone and a mobile network. And what we're able to do, and especially as I was speaking earlier about ultrasound, it's a point of care solution. So you have ultrasound monitors that your phone can be the monitor, and you attach a probe to your phone. And so what we're working on currently is having an AI solution plug into the phone and the monitor. So you just need a technologist. You don't need a very experienced person in doing the ultrasound. You teach them the basic technique of doing certain ultrasound techniques to look for TB, to look for common illnesses, and having an AI plugged into that probe will help them in the diagnosis. So that is very accessible. Yeah. The way we deal with broadband challenges, not everyone can access the cloud-based solution. So we have an on-site solution where we offer hardware that is built into a hospital or a smaller clinic, and it still has significant processing power where you can process the AI, but it will take longer. So you won't get the report in 45 milliseconds, but it may take maybe a minute or two. So there will be a delay, but not a significant delay as in months or maybe weeks to getting access to specialized resources. Yeah. So we can overcome some of the challenges that you face in remote areas and rural areas.
And from a Truzo perspective as well, we're constantly looking to democratize access to safe and secure transacting. And, whether it's a large corporate doing a 100 million Rand deal or a township entrepreneur doing a deal for 300 Rand, the impact on a small scale micro entrepreneur losing revenue or not being paid for a 1,000 Rand job or a 300 Rand job is just as big for him as it is for a large corporate with multi-million Rand jobs and transactions. So having the app means, and knowing that there's greater penetration of smartphones as opposed to laptops and desktops in Africa, gives access to literally anyone to use the Truzo platform when they're buying or selling. SMEs have access to it, as well as individual buyers.
Okay, and obviously it sounds like you guys have overcome a lot of the accessibility issues, which is great. And it sounds like on the path to scaling both businesses and doing it right now. I know a lot of our listeners may be on the same path. What are your specific challenges that you have to overcome from a scaling perspective, and how are you achieving results?
I think for us, because it's a frontier technology, especially in South Africa, the biggest challenge we've had to face was overcoming the change in culture. A lot of medical doctors are used to doing things a certain way, and they don't trust something like an AI solution. So we've had to try and change the mindset, so try and educate. And what we did last year was we hosted a Meet the AI challenge. So instead of calling it a Beat the AI challenge and make everyone scared that AI is going to replace them, what we did was for final year radiology students, we hosted a challenge where they were introduced to the AI and saw how AI can be an augmentation tool. And I have to say, this really changed their mindset, because again, these are the future generation. They're going to be qualifying in a year or two, and they're going to use technology like ours. And so for us, the biggest, I think, challenge was always the culture, the change in the mindset. The AI is there. It's there to do. It's amazing. It's so transformative. I've worked with it. I think for us, it's validation. We're running a few pilots right now and getting the validation done. So for us, it is building the product, measuring it. We're looking at different metrics now and getting that validation. So it's extremely important for us because, again, I'm in a company and it's a medical tech company. So it's very sensitive. It's sensitive to important data, and it has to be accurate as well. And it has to be given in the hands of someone who's going to be responsible. So validation is key for us. And the way we're achieving it is through different pilots and getting publications out and making sure that our product is safe.
Yeah. From a Truzo perspective, I think the biggest challenge is, while escrow is a concept and product or service outside of Africa, it's not very common in South Africa itself. And the first challenge was explaining what escrow is. We're doing that at the moment, but we're overcoming those challenges by partnering with larger entities where we're integrating our software into them so that we de-risk the buying and selling process on certain platforms. So we're busy with that at the moment, and hopefully by the time this podcast airs, we can announce some big news with some big integrations.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, sounds really exciting. And that leads me on to the next part. I mean, what are your plans over the next 6 to 12 months?
Both the companies are part of the same group, a part of the Envisionit group, and it's the first time in the world Founders Factory have invested in two companies from the same group. So,
and a husband and wife team from different companies.
Yeah. So Founders Factory and Standard Bank have invested in Truzo, and Founders Factory and Netcare have invested in Envisionit Deep AI. From a priority perspective, over the next 6 months, it's scaling both businesses. But just going back to what we mentioned earlier, we've set up our entities in the UK already. And it's not just scale from a South African and African perspective, it's scaling from a worldwide perspective. So from Truzo's perspective, we're going to be submitting our application to the FCA in the UK, the Financial Conduct Authority. We're all about compliance and doing things properly and by the book. So especially when you're dealing with people's money, you'd rather give more comfort than less. That's really what we're going to be doing over the next 6 months, scaling both locally and UK.
And we've got a few implementations with different customer segments. One is a telemedicine company, one is a big academic hospital, and another is a mining group. So that's going to keep us quite busy. But in a way, it also tests our integration and implementation into these different customer segments. For the UK, I mentioned earlier that we're hoping to run a clinical trial with Sheffield University and Sheffield Hospital. So that's on the card. So yeah, so it's a lot of learning, implementation, and scaling. It's exciting time actually for us.
Very.
Yeah. We're very grateful to have to say that, actually. Yeah.
No, exactly. Exciting and challenging, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I have to admit, during this lockdown, this is the busiest both of us have ever been in our entire careers. We were working from like 8 in the morning till 10 at night every day for like 8 weeks. And
it's good. It's a good problem to have during this time, right?
Yeah.
Our listeners also would be very interested to understand maybe your biggest tip for businesses that are going through or that are on the cusp of scaling. What advice would you give people?
From my side, I mean, this is such a new journey for me, but it is such an amazing journey. I think, we've had such highs and lows. And what I've learned from the lows is, and I'm still learning because often there's a lot of setbacks, but I think looking at what is the value in that setback? What is the lesson? Because often I think we found some valuable lessons in those setbacks that has helped us to move to a different path or, pivot. So that is really significant. And again, it's that build, measure, learn. I think that model is for us works, constantly validating, measure your product according to different metrics, and then constantly iterating depending on your validation.
Yeah, and both of our businesses have been established with such purpose and a passion for what we do and a passion for the greater good that we're going to achieve. When you have that as the driving force behind your business, it doesn't really feel like work.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of it. It also helps having her next to me. So driving me and motivating. And you do have those highs and lows in a startup. Envisionit's been going on for 10 years. We've had multiple companies. Some of the lessons learned is a deal's not done till the money's in your bank account. So it doesn't matter about whether
always reminds me of that.
Yeah. Don't count your chickens before they hatch and keep pushing until that deal is done. Don't be a nuisance, but add value to your client base. If you're consistently adding value to your client base, you're not someone whose calls they try to run away from. It's someone who they want to actually call to find out, what's your opinion on this? Even if it's not your specific business that can assist at that time, but because you've built that level of trust and relationship with your clients, they'll come to you for advice on things that are completely different to what you're doing. It doesn't matter whether you're in tech or not, you're still dealing with human beings. And you can't forget that. It's about relationships, fostering relationships and persevering, right? I mean, you don't just make a call or send an email and then never follow up. I mean, we constantly follow up and touch base. I mean, I really miss the human interaction because I feel like that is a huge benefit for us. But we have to do what we have and Zoom calls and things like that, but constantly keeping in touch with our clients.
Yeah, some sound advice, actually. And it sounds like you guys have the right ethos and the right way to push a business forward. And I've had a number of these calls over the last few weeks, and every single person, every single founder, CEO or guru has said it's a passion. And it seems like there's a bit of a theme here. So the guys that are pushing the boundaries right now, it's not about just going in and doing a job, it's something more. And it comes through for you guys as well.
It's what gets you through those very low days, is always going back to why you actually started the company and what's your purpose in this company.
I listened to something from a guy called Richard Mulholland in South Africa, where he says, sometimes if you can't find something you're passionate about, solve for something you absolutely hate. And I thought that was great advice as well. If you hate something so much and you dislike doing it so much, like for me, making my bed, solve for getting your wife to make the bed for you. But solve for that thing. And there's a joy that comes with that you're solved for something that you absolutely hate doing and you never have to do it again. So it's passion, but you could flip it around and just solve something that you hate, I think.
Yeah, and you're going to find a lot more companies solving amazing challenges. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I went to boarding school and I had to make my bed. They were called, in those days, they were called hospital corners. And gosh, still today. But anyway. But listen, if I ask my wife to do that, I think, who knows? Good effort. I like it.
We work as a team in everything. There's always, if I make the bed, he has to do something else.
Yeah. Over lockdown, I had to wash the toilets. Which I gladly did.
That was true.
Instead of making my bed.
I've got that task as well. So anyway, listen, guys, it's been absolutely amazing having you on the show. But how can people find you, find your businesses, connect with you? What's the best route?
I think, you can find us through our website. Radify.ai is a lot easier to remember.
Radify.ai is also a site where you can upload images, x-rays, where you can get an immediate diagnosis on them free of charge. From a Truzo perspective, you could download the Truzo app from Google Play or iTunes, or you could get onto the Truzo website, truzo.com, and or you can find us on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. Again, really appreciate you guys coming on the show. It's been fascinating to hear how you guys are really making a difference through a passion, and look forward to following your success over the coming, not only 6 months, over the coming years. Yeah, definitely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us, Richard.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, you've been a great host.
Yeah, and we're going to catch up over that beer when we come to the UK.
Definitely. Thanks, guys, and let's stay in touch. Cheers.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you. Bye-bye.